God. So let's start by chanting Om three times. 3 बार ओम का उच्चारण कर लेते हैं. Take a deep breath in. Slowly and gradually. If our eyes are closed, we may open them. So today we are taking up the Yogasara Upanishad. The Yogasara Upanishad was one of the first Upanishads that I heard from Gurudev. We studied this as part of the Sri Sri Yoga Teachers Training Program. And if I may say, it's a very cute Upanishad. It's very small, succinct, chota sa hai, and it has a wealth of wealth of insights for anyone on the path of yoga. So let's start with the Yogasara Upanishad. The Yogasara Upanishad starts with an invocation. Om Yo Vai Brahman Vidhadati Purvam Yo Vai Vedanscha Apnoti Tasmai Tamhadev Atmabuddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yo vai Brahman vidadhati purvam. One who brings forth, vidadhati, gives. Dadami is to give. Vidadhati is gives in a very special way, brings forth in a very special way. Yo vai Brahman vidadhati purvam. To the one who brings forth Brahma or the creator. There is a creative impulse in creation. Humanity is creating every organism. The hallmark of consciousness is the ability to create. So who brings forth this ability to create? Yo vai Brahman vidadhati purvam. Purva means before. For anything that has been created, you can say, well, there is something that created it, and there is something that created it. Children often ask, if God created everything, who created God? That's a very logical question to ask. So it starts off with the invocation to that which was the source of creation. Yo vai Vedanscha Parhinoti. I think there is some spelling mistake here. So it must be Apnoti, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Brahma is considered to be the creator, that which brought forth this whole creation. And Brahma also brought forth the Vedas, the rules by which this creation. So, for example, maybe some people might be responsible for creating something. And when they create, they also put down, say, supposing someone creates a game, say uh, you're in the business of making games, and you say, well, I want to come up with a new game, an online gaming app. So what do? I say, well, these are the rules by which Game shall function. In this game world, if you do this, you'll get so many points and so on. So not only do I create the game, when I create the game, when I create something, I also create the rules that there is a certain method that goes along with creation. So Vedas are those rules by which this universe plays. So that which not only brought forth Brahma, that brought forth the creation, but that which also ordained the rules for this creation. Tasmai tam hadeva atma buddhi prakasham. Atma buddhi prakasham. That which is lit by its own, which is self-effulgent. The, for example, if I shine a torch on something and that becomes visible, then that object depends on me to shine the torch for it to become visible to the world. So it needs an external light, an external factor for it to become visible, to become obvious. So if I ask you, are you in Switzerland? Then, well, if you're inside the room, you'll probably want to have some proof to check whether am I in Switzerland or not. If I ask you, is it 9:10 right now? You'll say, well, let me look at the watch, then I'll let you know. But if I ask you, do you exist? Then you don't need any other thing for you to answer that question. Yes, of course I exist. The very fact that you exist is enough for you to answer that question. So you're self-effulgent. You don't need anything else to become aware of yourself. So here the, the Rishi says, Tasmai tam hadeva atma buddhi prakasham. To that, mumukshurvai sharanam brahmaham prapatti. Mumukshurvai. I am desirous of freedom. I am desirous of uh, breaking forth from the bondage. Sharanamaham prapatti. I bow down. I surrender. So if I really want if I want freedom from bondage, then maybe the question comes up, okay, I want to be free. Where should I go? What is the way? How can I? So then it starts off with that tam tam hadeva atma buddhi prakasham, to that which has brought forth the creation, to that which has brought forth the rules for the creation, that which is self-effulgent, atma buddhi prakasham. To that I go to become free. If something is dependent on something else to be self-effulgent, to be visible, if something is dependent on something else, then how can I go to that to become independent? So I say, hey, here is a plane that's going to Bangalore. If I want to go to Bangalore, I better get onto that plane. And so, in the same way, here the Rishi says, I want to be free, and that's why I'm going to. And then he says, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gurudev said this many times that the three levels of Shanti, the three levels of peace. To have peace, you need to have the atmosphere that's peaceful, some amount of peace in the mind, and some amount of peace in the soul. So, peace in the environment, fairly logical. If things are going haywire outside, very difficult for the mind to calm down. Then peace in the mind. If the mind is agitated, if there are too many thoughts going on, then also I can't carry out this journey. And peace in the soul. There is some amount. Now, what does Gurudev mean when he says peace in the soul? Of course, the soul is peaceful, but when when there is some restlessness inside, deep inside, we don't even know why we are restless, then not able to come even close to the Lord. There are so many people, maybe you tell your friends, hey, I have this, we are doing this wonderful session and we're doing this amazing Sudarshan Kriya, da, 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 da. And they say, they're very nice people, but they say, no, yeah, it's not for me. So something Gurudev says, in the realm of the mind, like attracts like. If the soul is peaceful, then it attracts a peaceful environment and peaceful people around it. And then next question comes, how do we attain this peace? So the sutra says, by adoring the divine. The first shloka says, when I adore Sharanamaham Prapati, I recognize the divine. I recognize the source, and that brings me the peace. So the first shloka, the invocation itself gives us a technique. It says, surrender, recognize a higher power. Often when we are sitting down for meditation, today there was a Sayam Reconnect, and I shared this story. Once upon a time, long, long ago, not so far away, there was this sadhak, this person. One day he said to Gurudev, Gurudev, today my meditation was not okay. It was very disturbed. I think I'm not meditating properly. Please help. Gurudev smiled and said, do you know what meditation is? And that's it. That question was enough for that sadhak. And he realized that he had an idea and had made a concept saying that if I have X, Y, Z experience, then I have meditated. Then it was a good meditation. So, but if he really wanted to meditate deeply, he needed to drop that concept that he had made out of meditation. If I have less thoughts, then better meditate. Da, 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 da. But that is that need not be what meditation is. So that day for him said, well, I have been given a mantra by my guru, and I have been given a technique by my guru, and that technique is doing certain things to me. When I surrender, that's when I can experience the fulfillment of that meditation. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So often, even in the Yoga Sutra, it says, Samadhi Siddhir Ishvara Pranidhana. Only when you surrender, when you recognize a higher power, when you recognize that it's not just you, that you can get fulfillment in meditation. So here the Rishi is saying, if you want to attain peace, adore the divine. And what is this? What do you adore? That which has no beginning, that which is the source of all sources. If you can say it started here, that means there is something behind that. So they didn't say this is Brahman. They said whatever is the source. So then Gurudev says very beautifully that the thought of where do these thoughts arise? It all comes from the consciousness. Maybe a thought came to make a computer, to make a mobile phone, to make something, make this. The world is full of so much of creation. It all starts off as a thought. So where is that source? Where is it all coming from? That consciousness. Can I surrender to that? So often we have this thing that God is somewhere else. If I have to surrender, then I have to surrender to something else. Because that is our understanding of surrender. When I say surrender, then I think, okay, me and this, and I surrender to this. But here, the Rishi is talking something very different. He says, to that source of the thought, to that source of Veda, to the source of creativity. Where is that? Not somewhere outside, it is within. It is in. You are the consciousness. Recognizing that the primacy of the consciousness, this is surrender. Often we recognize the primacy of our intellect. I have this logic, and that because I've understood it like this, that's why I will believe this. So our whole existence is is a slave to logic. We want to logically understand. Even right now, when I'm saying all these things, your intellect is saying, wow, what a nice way to understand. I think today I understood this. So there also, because I felt I understood it, then I accepted. So our way of functioning is so much dependent on the buddhi. But when I go a little deeper and I say, where did this buddhi arise from? Where did that going down to the level of the consciousness? That is why the ancient rishis always said that if you want to acquire knowledge, do tapasya. No, it might seem very strange. Why, what will standing on one foot and not eating food and not and meditating, what how can this give me knowledge? Once Gurudev was talking about um, the three aspects of knowledge or the three layers of knowledge. So the first knowledge that we gain is through our senses, through our experience. We experience something and we know it. The sun rises, we are seeing it, and so I know, hey, the sun has risen, it's day now. A little higher than this is the knowledge from the intellect, the buddhi. Now I see the sun is rising, but my intellect tells me, well, it's actually not the sun that's rising, it's uh, it's the earth that's going around. And that knowledge that has come from the intellect is higher than the knowledge that came from the sense. There's another level to it, that is the knowledge from the consciousness. When we go deep in meditation, that intuitive knowledge, so many of us have experienced intuition. We have experienced uh, there is no reason for something, but we just know something. And that hunch or that intuition, and then you see, well, that's right. There was no way you could have known it, yet it came to you. So this intuitive knowledge, this now a lot of times our own impressions, preconceived notions, our karma also comes up as an intuition, and we get misled. I'm not talking of that, but that which comes from the intuitive nature, that consciousness, that knowledge transcends the knowledge that we can get from the intellect also. And here the Rishi says, go to that source. Don't stop at the intellect only. It's not that the intellect is wrong, it's right. It at its level, it's perfect. And to live in the world, we definitely need the intellect. Yet there can be another level. And that level comes through me, through devotion, through surrender. So that's why he says, Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapanti. I am Mumukshu. I want freedom. And that's why I'm surrendering. Often surrender seems like bondage. If I surrender, that means whatever freedom I had, I'm surrendering it. I'm giving it away. Lack of freedom. Yet, in the Vedic tradition, surrender is freedom. When I surrender, then whatever load I'm carrying is taken away from me. Just imagine I'm carrying such a heavy load on my head, and I say, "Oh, I surrender. Here, you take care of it." Then I'm free. So the other way of looking at surrender is that we go through life with such burden, and we have a job to do, we have to handle this, we have to handle that. And when we surrender, now remember, surrender doesn't mean inertia. Surrender doesn't mean laziness. You just recognizing a higher power with it. Recognizing it's not just the intellect, but the consciousness, the source of it. That is surrender. And this kind of surrender definitely gives you power. So then the Rishi starts, Atha Yogam Vyakhyasyamaha. So the first mantra says that Vyakhyan means a discourse, an explanation. Atha, now we will look into what is yoga. What is this union? What is yoga comes from the root yuj, which means to unite. So let us discuss, let us elaborate on this phenomenon called yoga. What is this yoga? So where did it come from? Atha, now, when there is peace, when there is surrender, now we can talk about it. Without a sense of surrender, without a sense of peace, all this makes no sense. If I catch someone on the street, maybe there is a doctor and they are in the hospital, lots of patients to attend to. And I say, come now, I will talk about yoga. Say, hey, yeah, let me do my work. Night, 9 o'clock, when it's your time, go ahead. That time we'll talk. But right now, let me be. So unless we let go of all of the other things, there is no point talking about yoga. So even here, many of us, in fact, all of us have wanted to know about something, said, oh, well, let me go and find out. I've been enjoying these sessions and it's so nice that it's there again. Let me go and find out. So there is a sense of peace, there is a sense of wanting to know. And that's what is a starting point. And so he again says, Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha. It is there in the Yoga Sutras also. Even in the Yogasara Upanishad, it starts with this. That subsiding these modulations, this is yoga. Now we have seen this so many times. But what does subsiding mean? Should I stop thinking? No. The when when it's when the modulation subsides. So it's not that you want to empty the lake of water, but you just want the waves on the surface to still, and then you can dive deep and watch deep, go into the depths and see what's happening. So when we feel subsiding the vrittis means not having thoughts, that's like saying let's empty the lake. We don't want the water, but that's not true. We definitely need the water to be in the lake for it to be a lake. In the same way, having thoughts is perfectly fine, but the modulations, when when the mind goes haywire and we are bombarded so many thoughts, that when that can subside, then that is so in moments of celebration, joy, peace, love, calmness, you'll see the vrittis have subsided. It's not that you're not having any thoughts, but the vrittis have subsided. So the third mantra says tatascha paramatmanah samavayah. Tatascha. Then, when yoga chitta vritti nirodha happens, then what happens? Paramatmanah samavaya. Samavaya is merging, communion, being together, or dissolving. Paramatma. Atman is the individual self. Paramatman is that which is beyond the individual self. So when yoga happens, then Paramatman Samavaya. Gurudev often says this, says, when a drop meets the ocean, it does not lose its identity, it gains the vastness of the ocean. So, in the same way, when the Atman dissolves in the Paramatma, when the identity dissolves, it's not that I'm losing something, but I gain something much, much bigger. It's like um, when I have a glass of water and I have a pot of water. And if I put the glass of water in the pot of the water, the glass of water, which was such a small entity, now becomes the bigger entity. Yet it stays water. So, in the same way, now this is something that we have heard so many times, but what does it mean to me practically in my day to day life? What should I do? What am I? That's where I belong to you starts coming to the picture. This sense of belongingness. When I start seeing that, hey, this whole thing is part of one consciousness. When does that happen? When I'm so meditative and I'm surrendered, then I start experiencing, hey, this is all. When I'm frustrated, angry, upset, then I say, that is different, this is different. But when I'm so peaceful, it really feels like we're one with nature. And so we have all had this experience. Whenever yoga happened, then Paramatmana Samavaya. We started feeling that oneness with the whole universe, with existence. So many times, just after Sudarshan Kriya got over, and when you wake up and you say, when you open your eyes and you say, wow, today what an experience, and it still feels so beautiful. After a little while, it changes. That's a different matter. But when yoga happens, the individuality dissolves into the vastness. And that dissolution is not a, a dropping of my existence, but an enlarging of my existence. Does that make sense what I'm saying? If you've really been meditating, then I'm sure you can catch the essence of what we're talking about. So the the shloka, the third mantra says, Tatascha Paramatmana Samavaya. But okay, so if I just practice yoga, then I'm going to have, no, he says, Gurorantikam Yogam Abhyasaye. When you're doing yoga, when you're practicing that union, when you're doing all of this, make sure Gurorantikam, under a guru, make sure you have a guru. Make sure you consider someone or something as your guru. Why this is necessary? Because in the process of expanding the consciousness, it could also lead to a sense of ego, saying that I am so big, I am so great, I know everything. Kashi Bhaiya, why have you kept the settings so that we can't unmute ourselves? Are you so egoistic? Only you can talk and we can't talk. No, no, I should also be talking. There is a tendency sometimes to feel that I don't worry, I'm going to unmute. But this tendency that happens can be tamed when I consider something as a guru. Ekalavya, when he considered Dronacharya as his guru, Dronacharya did not have any idea of that Ekalavya had made him his guru. And yet, Ekalavya benefited from just the idea of Dronacharya as his guru. He still continued learning, doing all the things that he needed to learn archery. Yet, by considering someone as the guru, that humility stayed throughout and that allowed him to learn. So, you, Gurudev says very beautifully that you you may have been a student of anatomy, you may be a doctor yourself, but you cannot conduct surgery on your own body. You may be a masseur, but you cannot have your own back massaged by yourself. You can't. Another. So In the same way, if you want to learn, if you want to practice, then you have a yoga. You need a guru. Does that make sense? It's already 9:35. I can see there are some things in the, oops, sound is low. Oh, oh, I just got carried away with my own voice, I guess. Oops. Well, I'll do something about the audio, enhance it a little bit, and then maybe I'll share it once again. But I'm sure you would have listened to something at least. Okay, so anyone wants to say or share anything?
Ashiji,
Jayakruti?
Ashiji,
Yeah.
today, it seems like you have, I mean, the way you're saying it, good, the sound level wasn't good because your voice was so soft and it felt like you merged and you gave me that experience through your experience.
Oh,
It's really true, that like I got something from you today that I haven't gotten before. So I want to
wow.
thank you for that.
That's so
Because
nice.
I know I've experienced samadhi and I love it. I mean, I just feel absolutely, terrific. And so I know what you mean about that you are in my film, which is called Source Within, which we're talking about, the source that is within. The title of the film is that in English, and in Hindi it's Swaha, Swaha, which is the self, the Atman. That's the Hindi title. And in there, I've got a quote of my own saying, "You are whole, but you're also part of the whole." And that's my own personal quote, and that's in the film. So I want to show you the film now. It's very important. You have to come to
Sure,
Mumbai.
sure,
Can you?
definitely.
Yeah.
For sure. I can see Vinay. Maybe Vinay, you have your hand up. Would you like to say something?
No, I just wanted to tell you that I'm not
The
able
audio
to hear you.
here. Okay. Okay.
So partly I could hear, partly I missed because your voice was not very clear.
Then you get a
Thank,
deeper meaning. You get a deeper meaning. Then.
thankfully, I think I have it recorded. Let me enhance the sound a little bit and I'll share the audio with everyone. Raji, you're saying something?
Yes, the audio, I wanted to say the same thing. There were places where one was training to hear what, and really wanted to hear, training to hear. There were some things that I probably missed that I should have not. So just wanted to tell you that. Not the entire thing, but there were parts where your voice was a little soft, very soft
Right.
actually.
Yeah.
I have one actually a question, which is
Mhm.
that how do you view surrender in the uh, through the lens of responsibility and accountability? It's not just about you when you have a goal and a role to play. How do you see surrender from that lens?
So the idea was, I think some of it I might be repeating, but it's a good thing for me to repeat. I would say that when it comes to surrender, it's not really just um, the idea that I am giving away something. So just like a drop merges into the ocean, it gets the vastness of the ocean. So it gets the abilities of the ocean also. So in that sense, if I want to fulfill my responsibility, maybe I have a responsibility towards my parents, maybe I have a responsibility towards society. And for me to be able to fulfill those responsibilities, having a sense of surrender. Now, when the Rishi says surrender, Sharanamaham Prapadye, the Rishi is saying that uh, where do I surrender? And then he describes that to the source of the thoughts, to the source from where the rules come in, to the source of everything. Recognizing the primacy of that, recognizing that that is what is running the show. So, for example, if I have to say get a job done, I need to apply to the corporation officials or something to get something done. I tend to figure out where is the power really? Who's the one who's getting the job done? Let me go and talk to that person. That's how I will be able to get my job. So, in the same way, when I look at responsibility, when I say, what is it that is actually making everything tick? Then I see that it's the consciousness. Now, often we think that it's the intellect that's making everything tick. I've taken logical decisions. I consume all these information and then I come to a decision, and that's what will make me take the right decision. Definitely, in most cases, yes. But when I recognize that meditation and when I get in touch with the consciousness, then that allows me another way, another level from which to be able to operate and get to a decision. Then that
Pranam.
allows me to fulfill my uh, that allows me to fulfill my uh, sense of responsibility more fully, in the sense that I get the tools to do whatever I want to do much better. And we have all experienced this. For example, maybe you had to take a decision and then you actually sat down, did your Kriya, meditated, and suddenly you're able to join the dots in a different way and come up with a solution which was more brilliant for you also. Does that make sense, Raji?
Moments where you have to surrender to be able to get something bigger, to
Yeah.
understand something bigger.
So
Yeah.
it's a
Got-
very
I
important.
understand.
It's very important to see that surrender does not mean laziness. It does not mean lethargy. It does not mean inaction. It does not mean saying that I will stop doing it, you start doing it. That's a very like naive way of understanding surrender. But really, surrender means recognizing that there is a higher power that's running the show. And when I recognize that that's happening, then I start accessing that. Then I start, that is what yoga is. So that's where I start getting to connect with the self, to go to the source, the consciousness which is running the whole show. And in that process, that is surrender. So for me, meditation truly is surrender, because somewhere I go and get in touch with the self. So surrender is not saying that, okay, now you take care. Guruji, aap dekh lo, main chup baithunga. No, this is, for me, that's not really surrender.
Actually, I want
Yeah,
to
Monish.
Hi, Kashmir. But sometimes surrender is also beyond the intellect, right? I mean, you always have a tendency to use your mind, your intellect first, and then try and use your buddhi, as they say, first. And then at times when you can't find answers yourself, then you say, okay, I've given up. Let's, let me surrender and let kind of the divine step in, right? So somewhere your natural tendency is for your mind to kind of use your mind to find answers first, and then go beyond. I don't know if that is the right approach or not, but any insights there?
So I would say often we think of these uh, as exclusive. So if this doesn't work, then this will work. But like say supposing I make a habit of meditating, I make sure that I meditate every day. I meditate in the morning, I meditate in the evening, I have a regular practice of meditation. Then you'll notice that even throughout the day, that impact stays. If you look at your own life before you started meditating, and maybe after you have had a very regular practice, you'll notice that this aspect of surrender, falling back on something deeper, becomes a part of life. So it's not that I will finish this and then access my consciousness, or I will access my consciousness and if it doesn't seem to work immediately, then let me go into my intellect. No. I think it's like the car. It all the wheels need to really turn together for it to move properly. In the same way, when we can master the knack of relying on the consciousness and on the intellect. So it's not as if the relying on the consciousness is going to be against relying on the intellect. It's not that intellect is against consciousness. Often that that sometimes brings a dichotomy. It makes us think that either this or that. But the truth is that both go hand in hand. And a lot of times, when you get an insight, later on the intellect comes up with various reasons why that was the best thing to have happened. Have you noticed this happening, Munish? That a lot of times you intuitively come to a decision and then you figure out, hey, yeah, this was for the best.
Kashiji,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
yeah, I went through many stages and different in experiencing consciousness.
Mhm.
And finally, I don't know if I can use such a strong word, but I started feeling that I myself am pure consciousness. So there's nothing to analyze, nothing to know, but you, like a laser beam, you live your life as pure consciousness. And that lasts for quite a long time. And then suddenly you come back to the manifest world and it disappears. And then it comes back again and it disappears.
This is where I'm saying, Nina, that it need not be exclusive. It's not that if this is there and that is not there. It's not that that is there. And I think Gurudev is the best example of someone who can have the perfect balance in
Balance.
all these aspects. Yeah,
Which is a santulan, right?
exactly.
Yeah, it's about Kashi
Yeah,
bhai, it's
Manish.
about being pulled. It's about being pulled in multiple directions and
Right.
stretched in multiple directions, and doing multiple responsibilities, and yet doing it in a style which is enjoyable and relaxing both, right? I mean,
Exactly.
what's the point being stressed when you're not enjoying it? But if you can enjoy it while being stretched, like the Roger Federer example you give, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's stressed in a 5-setter game, but he still makes it look and feel as though his natural self is flowing completely, right? And he's
Completely.
enjoying it as well. So
Totally. On these sessions, I simply enjoy all these question answers and have fun doing this whole show, so to speak.
So Kashiji, can we say it that it's like giving your best and then leaving the rest to the Almighty, and that is the surrender. So you have to do your duties to the best,
Correct.
and the results of the actions are not in your hand, so that you leave it to the Almighty, and that is the surrender, and that is the Ishwar Pranidhan that we need to create, and that is that is what we call as karma yoga. That do your bit, but don't go for the fruits of the action, and that is the surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the Gita's way of looking at surrender. But here in the Yogasara Upanishad, it takes a different. It's actually the same thing, but it's just presented in a very beautiful manner, where he says that you don't need to reject the intellect, or you don't need to say after finishing this, then I'll do it. But they can go hand in hand. You can actually recognize the primacy of the consciousness, at the same time utilize your intellect. It's like you see that it's the electricity that is powering your mobile phone, and using your mobile phone you can dial something, you can get onto a Zoom call, you can do all these things that you're doing, yet it is the electricity that is there behind that is making it do all of these things. So now if you say, hey, it's all just the electricity, but just electricity, if you just put it somewhere, it's not going to make a Zoom call happen. You definitely need the instrument to make it happen, the whole infrastructure. At the same time, if it's just the infrastructure and not the electricity, then also it's not going to happen. So it's a combination of both of these. And when we can um, rely on surrender in the sense of recognizing a higher power, along with our intellect, then we are able to do both together. And that is a very, very interesting way of handling the challenges that life throws at, handling the situations that life throws at us. Am I making sense, Rakesh?
Yes, yes, of course. Because so the lady was asking, she was like, what about doing your duties and what about surrender? So it's about doing your duties, and then the result is what you're surrendering. That that is up to the Almighty.
Mhm.
So you're not surrendering your duties. You're doing your duties
Not
to the
at all.
best.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's 9:50 already, and we've already overshot quite a lot. And we're going to be around for the whole week. So this is a very short Upanishad. So we'll probably finish in another 3 or 4 days, and we'll have much more time for interaction as we go on.
You know, that plants that you've put there,
Mhm.
I remember when my daughter was very little, I gave her a plant and I told her every day you must water it and nurture it. And that's the same with life. You nurture life, and then so she began very well and watered the plant, and then she didn't after that. So I had to water it. But the idea, she understood that you have to nurture everything in life. When you nurture it, just like a child growing up, that plant is very beautiful that you've placed over there. It tells me this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nurturing everything so that then everything happens okay,
Kashi Bhaiya, before you go off,
Yeah.
tell us what prasad did you get for us from Gurudev in yesterday's meeting?
Yeah, Gurudev has given all of us a new yoga protocol to teach for these times. So we're going to be, in fact, many of the teachers have already started teaching the new yoga protocol. So it's a set of yoga, pranayama, meditation, and a little bit of knowledge. It's a very short one that we are delivering to people at large, and it's a it's a great way in which we can all make a difference to people. And we're doing this, of course. It's open to all. It's like a free session for everyone to come and learn and really strengthen their own thing.
It's really nice. Thank you so much, Bhaiya.
Jai Gurudev. So thank you so much for listening so patiently. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, 9 o'clock, with our Netflix replacement sessions. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Kashi Bhaiya. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.